The base was gone. Commander stood in the smoking ruins, his rifle still warm in his hands. Around him, the bodies of both humans and aliens lay scattered across the red dirt of IV. The planet's twin suns cast long shadows through the broken walls, making everything look like a painting of hell. "Commander, we need to move," a voice called out. It was Lieutenant, her white armor stained with blood and dirt. She was helping a wounded soldier walk, supporting most of his weight on her shoulders. Counted heads: 12. Only 12 survivors out of the 200 soldiers who had defended the base. The end swarm had hit them hard and fast, like they always did. The insect-like aliens moved in massive groups, overwhelming any defense through sheer numbers. The coalition had been fighting them for 3 years now, and humanity was losing ground every month. "How many can walk?" asked, his voice steady despite the exhaustion pulling at his bones. 9, replied. She looked at the 3 wounded soldiers lying on makeshift stretchers. "These 3 need surgery soon or they won't make it." Nodded and pulled out his tactical pad. The screen was cracked but still working. He studied the map of the area. The main coalition forces had pulled back to 3 star systems away. The nearest outpost was 40 kilometers north, through rough terrain and probably crawling within scouts. "There," he pointed to a structure on the map. "Ancient ruins, 2 kilometers west. We can set up a defensive position there and wait for extraction." Corporal, a stocky man with a scar across his cheek, shook his head. "Sir, with respect, no one is coming back for 12 soldiers. The coalition is stretched too thin." "Then we hold until they can come," said simply. "Move out. I'll take point. You stay with the wounded in the middle. Watch our rear." They moved through the alien landscape like ghosts, staying low and quiet. IV was a strange world, with purple vegetation and rocks that seemed to glow faintly in the fading light. The ruins appeared after 20 minutes of careful walking. They were massive, built by some ancient race that had disappeared thousands of years ago. Tall pillars reached toward the sky, and deep chambers went down into the ground. "This will work," said, surveying the area. "Good sight lines, multiple exits, and the stone will block thermal scans." The soldiers set up camp in the deepest chamber. They had portable shelters, basic supplies, and enough ammunition for maybe one more serious fight. Immediately went to work on the wounded, setting up a medical station in the corner. Her hands moved with practiced skill, even though could see how tired she was. He organized the defensive positions, placing sensors around the perimeter and setting up firing angles. The other soldiers worked without complaint, even though they all knew the situation was desperate. That was the human way. When things got impossible, humans got stubborn. Night fell quickly on IV. The planet's darkness was complete, broken only by the strange bioluminescent plants that grew between the rocks. Set up a watch rotation, pairing soldiers in shifts of 2 hours each. He assigned himself the last shift from 4 to 6 in the morning. His partner would be. The other soldiers noticed, of course, and had served together for 2 years, always professional, always keeping proper distance. But everyone in the unit knew there was something unspoken between them. The way they moved in combat, always aware of each other's position. The way they could communicate with just a glance. The way they both pretended there was nothing there. At midnight the end came. The perimeter alarm screamed, and everyone was up with weapons ready in seconds. Ran to the eastern entrance, where the sensors showed movement. Through his night vision scope he saw them. 20, maybe 30 of the insect creatures, their chitinous bodies reflecting the starlight. They moved in perfect coordination, like parts of a single organism. "Hold fire until my mark," ordered calmly. He waited until they were 50 meters out. "Fire." The ancient ruins lit up with muzzle flashes. The humans fired with precision, each shot counting, each bullet finding its target. The end charged forward, their mandibles clicking, their multiple eyes glowing with hunger. But the humans held the line. moved along the defensive positions, his rifle barking steadily. He shot one alien in the head, then pivoted to take down another. Beside him, fired in controlled bursts, his heavy weapon cutting through the attackers. The humans fought like they always did, with intelligence and ferocity that made other species uncomfortable. The battle lasted 15 minutes. When it was over, the N retreated, leaving their dead behind. But they had achieved their goal. 3 more humans were wounded, one seriously. Worked through the rest of the night, operating on the soldiers with limited supplies and no proper equipment. Stayed nearby, helping when she needed it, handing her tools, holding lights. Her armor was splattered with blood now, both the red of humans and the green of N. "I'm losing him," said at one point, her voice tight with stress. She was working on Private Menu, a young soldier who had taken an N claw to the chest. "No, you're not," said firmly. "Breathe. You've done this 100 times. You're the best combat medic in the Corps." Took a breath, steadied her hands, and went back to work. 20 minutes later, Menu's vitals stabilized. She slumped back against the wall, exhausted. "Good work," said quietly. She looked at him, and for a moment the soldier's mask slipped. He saw the fear, the exhaustion, the weight of responsibility. Then she nodded and put the mask back on. Dawn came slowly. The twin suns of IV rose over the horizon, painting everything in shades of orange and red. Gathered the survivors. 9 left now. 1 soldier had died during the night despite efforts. He looked at their faces, young and old, scared and determined. This was humanity, fragile and mortal but refusing to quit. "Listen up," he said. "I'm going to be honest with you. Our chances of extraction are low. The coalition is fighting on 20 fronts and we're just 12 soldiers on a backwater planet." 9 soldiers, corrected grimly. 9 soldiers, acknowledged. "But we're still breathing and we still have ammunition. That means we still fight. That means we still have a chance." He pulled up his tactical pad and showed them the map. "There's an old coalition outpost 40 kilometers north. It might still have a working communication array. If we can reach it, we can call for extraction." "That's a long way through N territory," someone said. "Yes, it is," agreed, "and that's why we're not all going." The silence after his words was heavy. The 9 survivors stood in the ancient chamber, understanding what he meant but not wanting to hear it said out loud. 7 of you will go north to the outpost," continued. 2 will stay here to create a diversion. The N will be tracking us. If we all move together, they'll follow the whole group and overwhelm you before you reach safety. But if 2 people stay behind and make noise, draw their attention, the main group can slip away. "That's suicide," said Private, a communications specialist. 2 people can't hold off the swarm." 2 people don't have to hold off the swarm," explained. "They just have to survive long enough to keep the swarm busy, hit and run, false signals, traps, make the N think we're all still here." Stepped forward. "I'll stay, I can handle it." "No," said. "The group needs your heavy weapon to get through any patrols. Besides, I need someone who can lead the others if things go wrong." "Then who stays?" asked, though his expression said he already knew the answer. "I do," said, "and Lieutenant." Everyone started talking at once. Looked surprised but didn't argue. She was too tired to make the 40-kilometer journey anyway, and they all knew it. She had been operating on wounded soldiers for hours without rest, pumped full of stimulants to keep going. If she tried to march that distance, she would collapse. But the others protested loudly. Leaving their commander behind felt wrong. Leaving anyone behind felt wrong. "This isn't a discussion," said, his voice cutting through the noise. "This is mathematics. 7 people moving together make noise, they leave tracks. They're easy to spot from the air. 2 people can move silently. 2 people can hide in places 7 can't. 2 people can set up effective ambushes and distractions." He looked around at each of them. "More importantly, Lieutenant is exhausted. She saved 3 lives last night, but she can't walk 40 kilometers right now. She needs rest, and I'm not leaving her alone." Studied's face for a long moment, then he nodded slowly. "The whole galaxy thinks we're crazy," he said. "They look at humans and see a species that doesn't know when to quit. We fight when we're outnumbered. We hope when logic says we should despair. Maybe that's true. Maybe we are crazy." He clasped shoulder. "But that's why we're still fighting when everyone else gave up. That's why and all the other elder races are afraid of us. Make them remember, Commander. Make the N remember why they should fear humanity." The group spent the next hour preparing. They divided supplies, ammunition, and equipment, gave them his tactical pad with the route marked, would lead, with handling navigation and communications. They would move during the day when the N were less active, and hide at night when the swarm came out to hunt. Before they left, each soldier said goodbye to N. Some shook hands, some hugged. Private Minu, the soldier had saved during the night, thanked her with tears in his eyes. "Don't thank me yet," said with a tired smile. "Thank me when you're drinking bad coffee on a transport ship heading home." When they were finally alone and stood in the empty chamber, watching the 7 survivors disappear into the purple vegetation of IV, the silence felt strange after days of constant noise and combat. "So said, just us." "Just us," agreed. "Let's get to work." They spent the rest of the day turning the ruins into a death trap, rigged explosives from power cells, creating remote charges they could detonate from a distance. He set up false heat signatures using damaged equipment, making it look like multiple humans were scattered throughout the ruins. He placed motion sensors at every entrance, giving them early warning of any approach. Helped when she could, but mostly she rested. She sat in the deepest chamber with her back against the cool stone, eating ration bars and drinking water. Her body was crashing from the stimulants, and she fought to stay awake. Sleep told her, "I'll wake you if anything happens." "Can't," replied. "Too wired. The stims are fighting the exhaustion and my body doesn't know which to listen to." "Then just rest, close your eyes." As evening approached, finished the preparations. He had created a network of traps and false signals across the entire ruin complex. Any end force that came looking for them would find a confusing maze of sensor readings and explosive surprises. He triggered the first diversion at sunset. A series of explosions went off on the eastern perimeter, followed by recorded weapon fire that he played through salvaged speakers. To the end, it would look like a firefight. They came immediately, watched through his scope as hundreds of the insect creatures swarmed toward the false signals. They moved like water, flowing over obstacles, coordinating without speaking. The N were a hive mind, sharing thoughts across their entire swarm. It made them predictable in some ways, but terrifying in others. The aliens reached the eastern perimeter and found nothing but smoking craters and speakers, watched as they searched, trying to understand the trick. He noted their search patterns, their response times, their formations. This was the human advantage. The N were physically stronger, more numerous, and naturally armored. But humans learned. Humans adapted. Humans studied their enemies and found weaknesses. "They're pulling back," said. She stood beside him now, her rifle ready, watching the swarm retreat into the darkness. "They'll be back," said. "Tomorrow or the next day. They know we're here. They're just deciding how to dig us out." "How long do you think we have?" "Considered, if we're lucky, 3 days if we're not. They might rush us tomorrow at dawn." "And the others' group?" "They should reach the outpost in 2 days if they move fast and avoid patrols." Nodded. "So we need to survive for 2 days. Keep the swarm focused on us." "That's the plan." "It's a terrible plan." "It's the only plan." They stood in silence, watching the alien night. The purple vegetation glowed softly, and strange sounds echoed across the landscape. IV was beautiful in its own way, but it was also deadly. This planet would kill them if the end didn't. "We should set up a shelter," said finally. "Get some rest while we can." They erected a single survival tent in the deepest chamber of the ruins. It was small, barely enough room for two people to sit comfortably. But it was insulated, camouflaged, and would hide their heat signatures from end scanners. Inside, the temperature was comfortable. A single emergency light cast a soft glow. They sat across from each other, close enough that their knees almost touched. "You didn't have to stay," said quietly. "You could have sent back with me, led the group yourself." "Is a good soldier," replied. "But he's not a good liar. If the coalition command asked him why he left his commanding officer behind, he'd tell the truth. He'd say I ordered him to go. They might not send extraction if they thought I made the choice deliberately." "So you're protecting conscience." "I'm protecting the group's chances. If they think their commander is waiting for rescue, they'll send ships. Simple psychology." "And what about your psychology, Commander? Why did you really stay?" Met her eyes. In the soft light without her helmet, she looked younger than her 28 years. But her eyes were old, aged by the things she'd seen in this war. "Because I wasn't leaving you," he said simply. "That's all, that's the whole reason." The night settled around them like a blanket. Outside the tent, the ruins were silent except for the occasional sound of alien wildlife. Had set the perimeter sensors to maximum sensitivity. If anything larger than a small animal approached, they would know immediately. Inside the tent, looked at him for a long moment. The emergency light cast shadows across her face, making it hard to read her expression. 2 years, she said finally. "We've served together for 2 years, never more than professional, never crossed that line." "Never the right time," replied. "And now, is this the right time?" "Probably the worst time," admitted. "We're surrounded by enemies. We might not see tomorrow. This is the least appropriate moment to talk about anything personal." "Or it's the only appropriate moment," said. "When everything else is stripped away. When there's nothing left but honesty." She reached up and began removing her armor. The motion was practiced, automatic from years of repetition. But there was something vulnerable about it, something intimate. First came the shoulder guards, then the chest plate. Each piece of composite armor was from battle, dented and scorched. Watched silently. In military culture in their society, armor was identity. Soldiers lived in their armor, fought in it, slept in it. To remove it before battle was to admit vulnerability. To do it in front of another person was an act of trust. "I never told you why I joined the Terran Defense Corps," said as she set aside her arm bracers. "Why I volunteered for the most dangerous assignments." "You don't have to tell me," said. "I want to." She removed the last piece of armor, setting it carefully beside her. Underneath, she wore the standard-issue undersuit, thin and practical. Without her armor, she looked smaller, more human. "I was 12 when the end first came. They hit my colony world without warning. No declaration of war, no demands, just death from the sky." Listened, his face carefully neutral. He had heard stories like this before. Everyone in the military had lost someone to the end. "My parents put me and my little brother in an emergency shelter," continued. "Told us to stay hidden until help arrived. We waited for 3 days in the dark, listening to the sounds of fighting above us. When the coalition finally retook the colony, we came out." She paused, her hands clenching into fists. 30 children survived out of thousands. My brother and I were 2 of them. But he got sick from the toxins the N had released into the atmosphere. He lasted 6 months before his lungs gave out. I held his hand while he died. "I'm sorry," said quietly. "Don't be sorry, be angry. That's what I am. I'm angry that this happened. I'm angry that we're losing. I'm angry that good people keep dying while the end just keep coming." She looked at him directly. "That's why I joined. That's why I became a combat medic. Because I couldn't save my brother, but maybe I can save someone else's." Nodded slowly. Then he began removing his own armor. It felt strange, deliberate. He took off each piece carefully, setting it aside until he sat across from her in his undersuit. "My turn," he said. "I'm from Earth, Soul, normal childhood, good family. My older brother was my hero. He joined the Defense Forces right when the war started. Said someone had to stand up, might as well be him." He smiled sadly at the memory. "Was everything I wasn't. Brave, confident, always sure of himself. He made officer rank in 2 years. Led a frigate squadron at the Battle of." Said softly, everyone knew about. The coalition had lost 40 ships in 6 hours, nearly 10,000 personnel killed. "His ship took a direct hit," continued. "No survivors. I was 18, still in university. I watched the casualty lists come in and saw his name. My mother cried for a week. My father just got quiet, stopped talking much." "So you joined to avenge him?" "No," said. "I joined because I realized something. Died protecting people. He knew the risks, knew the odds, but he went anyway because he believed someone had to. And I thought if my brother believed that, maybe he was right. Maybe someone does have to stand up. Maybe that someone could be me." They sat in silence for a moment, 2 soldiers without their armor, sharing their wounds in the darkness. "The galaxy doesn't understand us," said. "They are older, smarter, more advanced. They are stronger, better warriors by nature. They have telepathy and can coordinate perfectly. But none of them fight like humans do. Because none of them are as stubborn," said with a slight smile. "It's more than stubbornness. I was reading a tactical analysis once. They studied human combat behavior for years, trying to understand what makes us effective. They measured our strength, our reaction times, our intelligence, all average or below compared to other species." Flattering. "But then they studied our motivation. Why humans keep fighting when the math says we should surrender. Why we take losses that would break other species. Why we never give up, even when giving up would be the logical choice." Leaned forward slightly. "They couldn't explain it. They called it an irrational drive towards self-sacrifice, a species-wide death wish." "But it's not a death wish," said. "No, it's hope. Humans hope when hope doesn't make sense. We believe things can get better when all evidence says they won't. We fight for each other even when fighting benefits no one." She paused. "That's what they don't understand. They think we're fighting to win, but we're not. We're fighting because the person next to us is fighting. We're fighting because we can't abandon each other." Looked at her, really looked at her for the first time in 2 years. Without the armor, without the rank insignia, without the professional distance, she was just a woman who had lost everything but kept going, a healer who had seen too much death, a soldier who still believed in something. "I watched you in battle," he said quietly. "The way you move, the way you think, you're brilliant under pressure. You save lives that should be lost. You never panic, never freeze." "Thank you. But I also watch you when you think no one's looking, when a patient dies despite everything you do, when you have to choose between 2 wounded soldiers because you can only save one. I see how it hurts you, how every loss cuts deeper." "It's supposed to hurt," said. "If it stops hurting, that's when I've lost my humanity." "Exactly," agreed. "That's what they don't understand. Our strength isn't that we don't feel pain. It's that we feel it and keep going anyway. We love, we lose, we hurt, and we hope again. That's not irrational, that's human." Outside, the night sounds continued. The purple vegetation glowed softly through the tent walls. The sensors remained quiet, no threats approaching yet, but both of them knew it was temporary. The end would come. Tomorrow or the next day, the swarm would find them and try to end them. "I need to tell you something," said suddenly. "Before tomorrow, before whatever happens next." "You don't have to," said. "Yes, I do. 2 years of professional distance. 2 years of pretending there was nothing between us. 2 years of following regulations and maintaining proper conduct." He met her eyes. "But we're probably going to die tomorrow, and I don't want to die having never said it." "Said what?" "That from the first day we served together I've been aware of you, not just as a soldier or a medic, as a person. As every mission, every battle, I've positioned myself to protect you without making it obvious. Every briefing, I've watched for your reactions, valued your input more than anyone else's. And I've spent 2 years telling myself it was just respect for a fellow officer. But it wasn't, said softly. No, it wasn't, smiled sadly. I've been in love with you since the station incident, when you ran into fire to save those civilians, when you refused to leave anyone behind. I watched you risk everything for strangers and I thought, that's what a human should be. Reached across the space between them and took his hand. Her palm was warm, calloused from holding weapons and medical instruments. I know, she said, I've always known. They sat together in the tent, hands clasped, armor discarded, pretenses dropped. Two humans facing the end together, no longer alone. Time moved strangely in the tent. Minutes felt like hours and hours passed like seconds, and talked about everything and nothing. They spoke of memories from Earth, favorite foods they missed, dreams they had abandoned when the war began. I wanted to be a teacher, admitted. High school history. I loved learning about how civilizations rose and fell, how humans adapted and survived through every challenge. Laughed, actually laughed, and the sound was beautiful in the darkness. You, a teacher, I can't imagine it. Why not? You're too good at this, at tactics, at leadership. You were born to be a soldier. No one is born to be a soldier, said. Soldiers are made by war. When the war ends, we all have to figure out who we really are underneath the uniform. If the war ends, corrected. When, insisted. Humans don't lose. We might not win quickly, might not win cleanly, but we don't lose. We're too stubborn to lose. Smiled, and what about you? When the war ends, will you go back to teaching? Maybe, or maybe I'll open a restaurant. Small place, traditional Korean food, nothing fancy, just good food and quiet customers. I can't stand coffee, said suddenly. Everyone thinks I love it because I drink 6 cups a day, but I hate the taste. I only drink it to stay awake. Then why not stems or tea? Because coffee is what soldiers drink. It's tradition, it's familiar. When everything else is chaos, at least I know what bad military coffee tastes like. She paused. What about you? Any confessions? I talk to my brother sometimes, said. When I'm alone on the bridge of a ship or standing watch at night, I talk to him. Tell him about my day, ask for advice. I know he's not there. I know he can't hear me, but it helps. That's not strange, said. That's human. We carry our dead with us. We remember them, honor them, let them guide us. They sat closer now, shoulders touching. The emergency light cast soft shadows on the tent walls. Outside, the alien night continued, full of strange sounds and stranger dangers. Tell me something, said. The ambassador you mentioned earlier, the one who asked about humans. Yes. What did you tell him? What makes humans dangerous? Considered for a moment. I told him it's not what we can do. Every species has strengths. They are better fighters physically. They are smarter strategically. They coordinate better naturally. So what makes us different? What we choose to do when there's nothing left to gain, when winning is impossible, when survival means abandoning our principles. She looked at him. Other species fight to win. Humans fight to protect. Other species retreat when the math says they're beaten. Humans hold the line because someone behind them needs time. Other species save themselves. Humans save each other. Even when it's illogical, said. Especially when it's illogical. That's the part that scares other species. We're predictably unpredictable. We do things that make no tactical sense but perfect human sense. Squeezed her hand. Like staying behind on a dead planet to save 7 people. Like staying behind when you could have led them to safety yourself. Like falling in love during a war, added quietly. Leaned her head against his shoulder. Love during war, the galaxy must think we're insane. The galaxy thinks we're insane anyway. Might as well prove them right. They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then's tactical watch beeped softly. He checked it, and his expression hardened. Perimeter sensors, movement on the eastern side, multiple contacts. How many? 50, maybe more. They're moving slowly, searching. Straightened, instantly alert despite her exhaustion. How long until they reach us? 20 minutes, maybe less if they pick up our scent. They looked at each other, the moment of peace ending. Reality crashed back in, harsh and immediate. The end were coming. The swarm had found them again. We should gear up, said. They helped each other with their armor, a ritual that felt both military and intimate. Secured's chest plate, checking each clasp. Adjusted his shoulder guards, ensuring proper protection. Their hands moved with practiced efficiency, but also with care. Each touch carried meaning. When they were fully armored again, they looked like soldiers once more. Professional, deadly, ready for combat. But something had changed between them. The armor couldn't hide it now. Checked his rifle. 3 magazines left, 90 rounds total. He had his sidearm with 2 more magazines and a combat knife. Had similar, plus her medical supplies that she knew she probably wouldn't get to use. Listen to me, said as they prepared to leave the tent. When the fighting starts, we stay together. No heroics, no unnecessary risks. We're not trying to win. We're trying to survive until this group reaches the outpost. How long is that? They left yesterday morning. If they moved fast, they might reach it tonight. If not, tomorrow morning. So we need 12 more hours, maybe 18. Against 50N with limited ammunition, smiled grimly, should be easy. We're going to die, aren't we? Said it calmly without fear, just stating a fact. Probably, admitted. The math isn't good, 2 humans against 50 aliens. Low ammunition, no support, no escape route. Then why are we doing this? Because 7 people get to live. Because Minyu gets to go home and tell his family about the medic who saved him. Because gets to have a future. Because those 7 survivors get to keep fighting, keep hopping, keep being human. That's all. That's everything. Turned to face her fully. The ambassador asked me once what victory means to humans. I told him that humans define victory differently than other species. We don't need to win the war. We just need to save one more person, protect one more friend, buy one more day of hope. Every small victory adds up. Every person saved matters. Even if we die doing it. Especially if we die doing it. Because then others see what we did. They see that humans don't abandon each other. They see that we value each other more than our own lives. And that gives them strength to keep fighting, keep hopping, keep being human. Nodded slowly. My brother died hopping I would survive. I survived hopping I could save others. Now I'll die hopping those 7 reach safety. The chain continues. The chain continues, agreed. That's humanity. We're a chain of hope stretching back thousands of years. Each generation saves the next. Each person protects another. The chain never breaks because we refuse to let it. They stepped out of the tent together, weapons ready. The alien night was darker now, the twin moons having set. The purple vegetation glowed brighter in compensation, casting eerie light across the ruins. Activated his night vision and studied the approaching contacts. 53N, moving in standard search formation. They would reach the ruins in 10 minutes. One more thing, said suddenly. Yes. I'm glad it's you. If this is the end, if we're making our last stand here, I'm glad I'm not alone. I'm glad it's you beside me. Felt something break inside his chest, something that had been locked away for 2 years. I love you, he said simply. I should have said it sooner, should have said it 1,000 times, but I'm saying it now. I love you. I love you too, she replied. I have for a long time. They stood together in the ruins of an alien world, 2 humans facing impossible odds. They had no chance of survival, no hope of victory. But they had each other, and for humans that was enough. Ready? Asked. Ready? Confirmed. They moved to their defensive positions, preparing for the battle that would likely be their last. But they faced it together, and that made all the difference. That was the human element. That was why the galaxy whispered their name with fear and wonder. Humanity, together until the last. The end came like a wave of death. 53 insect creatures moving in perfect coordination, their chitinous armor reflecting the glow of the purple vegetation. They swept through the ruins, searching, hunting, following the scent of human prey. Triggered the first trap when they reached the outer perimeter. 3 explosions ripped through the night, sending in bodies flying. The swarm didn't panic, didn't scatter. They simply adjusted their formation and continued forward. That was the terrifying thing about the hive mind. No fear, no hesitation, just relentless purpose. "Contact east," said calmly into his comm. "Engaging." He fired controlled bursts from his position behind an ancient pillar. Each shot was precise, aimed at the weak points in armor. Head shots when possible, joint shots when not. Beside him, 20 meters away, did the same. Her rifle barked steadily, professionally. 2 soldiers working as one unit. The N charged. They moved impossibly fast, their multiple legs carrying them over obstacles like they weren't there. Fell back to the second defensive line, triggering more traps as he went. Moved with him, covering his retreat, never more than sight distance away. "Ammunition check," called. 2 magazines, responded. "Same." They were burning through their supplies too fast, but there was no choice. The N kept coming. Switched positions, firing from a different angle, making the aliens adjust their approach. This was human warfare. Adapt, move, survive. Never stay still. Never become predictable. A N broke through the line, heading straight for, pivoted and fired 3 shots to its head. It fell 10 meters from her position. She didn't waste time thanking him, just kept firing at the main force. That was trust. That was partnership. 15 minutes into the battle, his rifle clicked empty. He dropped the magazine, loaded his last one, and kept firing. 45 rounds left. He made each one count. The N were learning. They started using cover, moving unpredictably, trying to flank. The hive mind was adapting to human tactics, studying their patterns, but humans could adapt faster. Triggered the main trap, the one he had spent hours preparing. A section of the temple collapsed, crushing a dozen N and blocking the eastern entrance. The swarm was forced to redirect, buying precious seconds. "Fall back to the central chamber," ordered. "Last stand position." They retreated fighting, making the N pay for every meter. His rifle ran dry, and she switched to her sidearm without missing a beat. Her shots were just as precise with the smaller weapon. 30 years of training, muscle memory taking over when the mind was too tired to think. The central chamber was perfect for defense. 1 entrance, high ceiling, good sight lines, and took positions on either side of the doorway. The remaining N, maybe 30 of them, massed outside. They were cautious now, having learned that rushing blindly meant death. "Last magazine," said. "Same," replied. 15 rounds each. "Not enough." Never was. They shared a look across the chamber. No words needed. They both knew how this ended, but they weren't afraid. Fear required thinking about the future, and there was only now. Only this moment, this fight, this last stand. The N charged together, all 30 at once. It was a calculated decision by the hive mind. Overwhelmed through numbers, accept losses as necessary. Cold logic versus human determination. And fired their last rounds, dropping 6 aliens before their weapons clicked empty. Then they drew their combat knives, the final weapon when all else failed. The N poured through the entrance, their mandibles clicking with hunger. Met the first one with his knife, stabbing up through its softer underside. The blade sank deep, and the creature collapsed. He pulled the knife free and turned to the next one. Beside him, fought with the precision of a surgeon and the ferocity of a warrior. Her knife found weak points, exploited gaps in armor, ended lives with clinical efficiency. They fought back to back now, surrounded, outnumbered, but unbroken. His arm ached from repeated strikes. His armor was cracked in 3 places. A claw had torn through his left side, and he could feel blood running down his ribs. Was limping, having taken a hit to her leg, but they kept fighting. A tackled, bearing him to the ground with its weight. Its mandibles snapped inches from his face, searching for his throat. He held it back with his left arm while his right hand searched for his knife, dropped in the impact. Suddenly the creature went limp, had driven her knife through its skull from above. She pulled to his feet and they stood together, gasping, facing the remaining 15 aliens left, 2 humans, no weapons except knives. "Good run," said between breaths. "Best I ever had," replied. The circled, preparing for the final assault. This was it. The end. 2 humans would die here in the ruins of an alien world, buying time for 7 others to reach safety. The chain would continue. Then the roof exploded. Rappel lines dropped from above, and armored figures descended rapidly. Coalition soldiers, dozens of them, firing as they came. The tried to respond but were caught between the new threat from above and the 2 humans who suddenly found new strength. Grabbed a fallen rifle and started firing. Did the same. Together with the rescue force, they crushed the remaining in minutes. When the last alien fell, silence filled the chamber. A commander approached, his armor bearing the insignia of Coalition Special Forces. It was Commander, a legend in the military. He looked at and taking in their battered armor, their wounds, their exhaustion. 2 soldiers, said slowly, holding off 50+ for 8 hours, creating diversions that saved 9 lives, fighting when any sane species would have surrendered. He shook his head in amazement. The 7 survivors reached the outpost 6 hours ago. They told us what you did. Command wanted to wait until morning, but I convinced them to move now. The others asked, they made it. All 7, safe and heading home. Felt his knees buckle, caught him, or maybe he caught her. They held each other up, their last reserves of strength finally giving out. Medics rushed forward, treating their wounds quickly and efficiently. Watched them, his expression thoughtful. "I've been fighting this war for 5 years," he said quietly. "I've seen humans do impossible things, but I've never seen anything like this. When I read the tactical report, I thought it was exaggerated. 2 people creating complex diversions, setting strategic traps, fighting a delaying action that would challenge a full platoon." He paused. "But you actually did it. You actually held them off." "We're stubborn," said with a tired smile. "It's more than stubbornness," replied. "The alien species, the elder races, they debate constantly about what makes humans special. They study our biology, our psychology, our technology. Is it our aggression, our adaptability, our tool use?" He gestured at and still holding each other up. "But anyone who has fought beside humans knows the truth. It's not what we fight with, it's what we fight for, each other, always." They evacuated to the extraction ships waiting above. Coalition forces had pushed forward specifically to rescue 2 soldiers. Other species would call it wasteful, illogical. Humans called it essential. You don't leave people behind, ever. Aboard the medical ship and were separated for treatment. Had 3 broken ribs, a deep gash in his side and various bruises and cuts. Had a fractured leg, a concussion, and had lost dangerous amounts of blood. But they would both survive. When they were stable, the medical staff let them see each other. They sat side by side in the recovery bay, still wearing their armor because no one had convinced them to take it off yet. Their hands were clasped together. "We made it," said softly, as if she couldn't quite believe it. "We made it," confirmed. 7 people are safe, the mission succeeded. "And we're alive." "That too." They sat in silence, processing everything that had happened. The last stand, the confessions, the battle, the miracle of rescue. Around them, the ship hummed with activity. Other wounded were being treated. Soldiers were debriefing. The war continued. Commander stopped by before leaving. The story of IV is already spreading, he said. 2 humans holding off an entire swarm, creating diversions that saved their squad, fighting to the last breath for each other. He smiled. They will write papers trying to explain it. They will call it madness. They will say it defies logic. What will humans call it? Asked. Humanity, fuck yeah, said simply. That's what the soldiers are calling it, HFY, because that's what you showed them. That's what we all show the galaxy. We're not the strongest. But we're the most human, and sometimes that's enough. He left them alone. The ship jumped to hyperspace, leaving IV and its horrors behind, and sat together, alive against all odds, still wearing their battle-scarred armor. But underneath the armor, they were just 2 people who had found each other in the darkness of war. The galaxy would remember IV. They would add it to the growing collection of human stories, tales of impossible stands, unlikely victories, and stubborn hope. The elder races would study it, trying to understand the human quality that let 2 soldiers accomplish the impossible. But the answer was simple. It wasn't strategy or tactics or technology. It was love. It was loyalty. It was the human refusal to abandon each other, even when abandonment would be logical, especially when abandonment would be logical. Leaned her head against the shoulder. What happens now? She asked. We heal, we rest. Eventually, we go back to the fight. Together. Always together, promised. From now on, always together. The ship carried them toward safety, toward rest, toward a future neither had expected to see. Behind them, the story of their stand was already becoming legend. Across the galaxy, humans heard about IV and felt pride, felt hope, felt connected to 2 soldiers they had never met. That was humanity, a species bound by stories, by sacrifice, by the unbreakable chain of hope that stretched through time, each person protecting another, each generation saving the next, the chain never breaking because humans refused to let it break. Not because they were the strongest, not because they were but because when it mattered most, they chose connection over isolation, hope over despair, and each other over themselves. That was HFY. That was why the galaxy whispered their name with respect, with fear, with wonder. That was why humans would never surrender, never stop fighting, never abandon the belief that tomorrow could be better. Because humanity together was stronger than any individual, and together humans were unstoppable. Outside the window, stars streaked past in hyperspace. Somewhere out there, the war continued. But for this moment in this ship, 2 humans were safe. 2 humans were together, and that was victory enough.